Hello my friends and welcome to the shop. I'm Buck Weezer, Buck Small Engine DIY on YouTube, and it's hockey season. I'm wearing the Flyers gear. Go Flyers. In the shop today I've got an ARCTIC CAT ATV that hasn't started or run in a year and a half, and we got to get it up and going. ARCTIC CAT. If you like consonants, that's a really great name. ARCTIC CAT. I do like consonants. I like vowels too. Anyway, let's get back to the topic. This has not started or run in about a year and a half, so I'm going to guess there's some carburetor issues. It's always the case when machines sit. Fuel is old, messes up the carburetor, and it just doesn't want to cooperate. I've also been told that it needs a new ignition coil because once it heats up, then it cuts out. Well, I think we need to get it running first, and then we can evaluate that. So, are you ready to join me today for this project? Then stay tuned! So this is the TRV 400 model, and it's from the model year 2007. Now, here's how I know that. You can see down in there on the frame the VIN number, and if you look very closely you'll see that the 10th digit in that VIN number is a 7. So that means this is the 2007 year. If it were an 8, 2008, 9, 2009, but once you get to 2010 then they start using letters. So the letter A as the 10th digit would be a 2010 model. Anyway, this is the 2007 model, and if you look over to the left there, it actually says date of manufacturer 05/06. So it was made in May of 2006. It's the 2007 model year. All right, I want to see if I have spark first of all. Just a simple test with an inline spark tester between the spark plug and the spark plug wire. And if I crank the engine, will that give me a little flash right inside the tester? That's what we'll try. So let's see. Shifter in neutral, parking brake, key switch on. Let's just see if it switch on. See if it'll crank and flash in there. Yeah, it does flash in there. So we are getting spark, so that's good. That's an important test that I wanted to confirm before moving forward with the carburetor work. Well, before tearing into that carburetor, uninstalling, I want to try something else to see. The carburetor, and I don't know if you'll be able to see this real well. The base of this carburetor is a sort of like a spring-loaded primer. It's not a bulb, but it's a lever you could press a couple of times. And I'm just pressing that a few times. It's got an automatic choke, but that's a primer feature that might help put a little fuel where it needs to go. So let's go ahead with having done that. Just see if it'll start for us. Alright, so that's a very conclusive test then, you know. It would run briefly. It started briefly. You heard it run for just a second or two when we prime it. But it's not going to stay running. So that's why we're going to dig into that carburetor and try to get this thing to run better for us. It wants to. It's got spark. That's all great. It'll run briefly on the primer, but it's got to stay running. So let's take that carburetor off. Well, the carburetor's a little hard to get to, although I think it's doable. Got to move a few things out of the way, because here it is back here, and it's really just a clamp on both sides of it that's holding it up there. Obviously we'll have to disconnect the throttle and the fuel line. I think that I might gain a little space by moving this breather tube out of the way, and possibly this positive cable going to the starter. I'll disconnect the battery again. We'll have to And then it's just 2 brackets with clamps. So it's tight spaces, but I think that's the way we got to do it. And it should be able to carefully and narrowly fit right through that opening. I don't know if I'll be able to show you that whole process, but let's give it a try. Alright, let's disconnect our throttle cable. Again, it's tight quarters, it's hard to see, but there's a Phillips head screw right here. Oh. Take this cover off. Like so. And our cable's right in here. So if we push this up, we can get that to pop out of there. Just like that. That comes back down. All right. Then I can loosen, it's hard to see. I can loosen the retaining nuts on the threaded part of the shaft, the throttle shaft, and then this will, I'll just loosen that one. It looks like a 10 millimeter, maybe it's 8. And then this should pop right out. Let's see. I can do that. You probably can't see real well. That makes 2 of us. Anyway, it's not impossible. You just gotta take your time. There we go. So that came off. See that? So now the throttle shaft is removed from the carburetor, so that's just fine. Over on this side of the carburetor, we have to do 2 things. Disconnecting the fuel line will be one of them right here, and disconnecting the automatic choke wire connector. So pull that cap off, and then I think Phillips head screwdriver right under it should release that for us. Let's see if I can put you on a tripod and do that. Can't quite break it loose, and I don't want to strip it out, so I might get the impact just to break that screw loose. There we go. Just to break it loose sometimes, and then I'll get the rest with the Phillips head. Alright, so there's the screw, don't lose that. And that's the automatic choke mechanism. We'll leave him just hang there for the time being. Now I'll get that fuel line. Okay, all that remains for this carburetor removal is these 2 clamps right here. That one's pretty easy to get to. This one back in here, not so much. But a 6 millimeter socket will loosen them, as I am attempting to do right now. Alright, so that guy, that one was easy. He's loose. Alright, see that guy right there? And Now I'm going to try for that other one. I got to move the camera out of the way, but that'll be the last step. We should be ready to pull the carburetor out of there. All right, clamps are removed and everything's disconnected, and now we're just trying to carefully fish this out through here. Well, everything's not disconnected. I got to have some kind of breather tube here. Now it's disconnected. It's kind of chewed up, that breather tube also. All right, there it is. I know you said it couldn't be done. Nah, you didn't say that. You believed in me. Oh, I'm spilling gas around. All right, I'll meet you over on the workbench. All right, so here's our carburetor. I cleaned off a good bit of the dirt and built up dust and grime on the outside. And now I want to take off the bowl, which is 1, 2, 3, 4 screws. And hopefully, I've never worked on one, so hopefully it'll be fairly obvious just based on my experience with other carburetors. That's tight. I'm going to use the impact to kind of break them loose. I think that works pretty good. Because I don't want to strip them out with the Phillips head screwdriver, handheld style. So there we go. There's our bowl. It doesn't look too bad. Certainly seen worse. Bit of crud in this corner. But you know, it's got that yellow staining look of fuel that's sat in there for a long time. We got our float, our needle, we got our jets here, jet here. We're going to take those out and clean them pretty good. Okay, so I cleaned out the bowl pretty good. Our primer pump was working fine, so I don't really want to take it apart. Pulled out this drain plug. So it's all the bowl's all clean. Now these jets. I also removed the float and the needle, so that came out. Alright, so I got 1, 2, 3. Now this one looks like it could come out with a wrench or a screwdriver. I'm not really sure. So maybe here's your inner part. Oops, I dropped it in. There it is. That's just a small guy. We're going to clean him out. And I'm going to see about taking out this one too. What size is that? Maybe an 8mm? Have I mentioned that I've not worked on one of these before? So we're making this up as we go based on previous experience with other carburetors. So we're going to clean this out. It's got some tiny holes to go up the side. I want to find a guitar string or something really tiny to clean them out. And all right, how about this guy? Another small guy. We're going to clean him out. What's up in there? Another jet. I don't know if that will come out or if I'll just clean it with a thin wire brush and some spray. Okay, and this guy here.
So this one's kind of spring loaded, so this one's going to be adjustable. And there is a spring down in there. And for him, we just need to clean him off and put him back in. And what we do is we're going to take them all the way down, not too hard, just till it bottoms out. Back it off a half a turn, full turn, turn and a half. Let's try that. Alright, I'm going to see about these guys, these small jets. Carburetor cleaning is just so exciting. I'll poke him through there so he doesn't, this is a small pin, he doesn't even go through there. Well, let me work on this for a while. I'm going to clean these out, make sure they're clean and clear. See, there was crud that came out of that. See that? So this guy was probably plugged up with debris. So we're going to clean that out, we're going to clean all these out, and then we'll be able to put it back together. There's another jet way down in here, and a small screwdriver. Wow. So lots of tiny little parts and pieces for us to clean out. It's all part of the job. Well, I think it's about as clean as it's going to get. All the jets are cleaned. Bowl is clean, and let's put it back together. Here's the float and needle. Hangs on there. Okay. And now the bowl. And 4 screws. All right, I'm not going to do anything with this diaphragm at the top. I believe it's working as it should. If you blow a little air through here, and you see this venturi open wider, so you know it's working properly. So we're just going to leave that as fine and move forward. Let's go reinstall it. Alright, well, I've reinstalled the carburetor, and it's the reverse of what we did to get here, right? And it's just impossible to film that. So hopefully I gave you enough pointers during the disassembly that you can now apply it to the reassembly, but I'm happy with how it went back on. And one of the things I did that I hadn't mentioned before is I opened up this compartment here, which gave me access to the air cleaner assembly and the air filter, which is great because I'll be able to put in a new air filter before we're done. but it also gave me more flexibility here with this intake side of the carburetor, because it allowed that to move, and I could work the carburetor back in there with some flexibility. Now, I have not hooked up the fuel line. What I did is, instead of hooking up the fuel line directly yet, I'm going to add some fuel to the carburetor. So I just have this little fuel line hose that I'm going to use and just fill up the bowl of the carburetor, because it's completely empty now of fuel, and our pulse pump would have to work a good while cranking the engine before it would get filled up with fuel. So I'm going to add the fuel with just a little funnel or a syringe right here to get some fuel into the carburetor bowl down there, so we're ready to start it. The other thing I don't know is the condition of the fuel in this fuel tank, and I'm going to use my Vevor extraction vacuum pump to pump the fuel out of this tank, because if it hasn't run in a year and a half or 2 years, then the fuel's likely that old as well. And I'd like to start with some fresh, clean, non-ethanol fuel. Fuel gauge there indicates we got a little less than a half a tank, so I just don't want to use old fuel, so I'm going to suck it out. Well, I think we have enough of this back together. Carburetor's installed, battery reconnected, clean fuel. I think it's time to see if this guy wants to run. Doesn't sound like our battery's real powerful right now. I used the rope starter and it came to life on the first pull. I think I just need to get a new battery. All right, well, that was mildly successful. And we're dealing with that issue that the owner was telling me about, that once it warms up, it dies out on you. Although when I pull the rope again to start it, it fires briefly, which makes me think, is that really ignition? Does it really need a new coil, or is that fuel? I'm not entirely sure yet, but I guess that's the next thing for us to look into. Well, I am by no means an expert on these machines. This is the first time working on one, but I did a little research and I've learned a little bit along the way. These are powered by a CDI ignition system, capacitive discharge ignition, and it's controlled by our CDI module, which is this guy right here. And this is the control center for the bike. The brains, the computer, if you will. And you know, it all starts down here at the flywheel, which is behind this cover, behind this rope starter, behind this cover. We've got our flywheel and our stator. And flywheel spins with its magnets past the stator. And the stator does more than just charge the battery. It certainly does that. It also provides the source voltage for our CDI module. And additionally, adjacent to the flywheel is a sensor. I forget what exactly it's called, but it reads the reluctor that spins past the sensor, and it sends that information to our module. And our module takes that information, knows what to do with it, and knows when to send voltage then to our ignition coil, which is this guy right here. And our ignition coil ups that voltage significantly, sends it down to our spark plug and into our combustion chamber, and everything fires. And it does that, you know, a couple of thousand times per minute. And our issue is going to be somewhere in there. Now, that's an overly simplified explanation of how these components work, and I don't pretend to understand how it all works, but I do know that I'm going to learn everything I need to so that we can get this thing back up and running properly. My strategy today is to start with the simple and move to the more difficult. Start with the simple before, and then go from simple to complex, from easy to hard. And you know what I'm going to start with? I'm going to put in a new spark plug. Say, now, well, that can't be it. Well, I'll tell you, I've seen spark plugs that worked okay cold and then started malfunctioning when the engine heated up. Is that the problem? Well, I don't know, but I was going to change the spark plug as a matter of good maintenance anyway. So let's do that. We'll put in a new plug, and then we'll start it up. And we will just work our way, starting with easy to hard, from simple to complex, until we've got this thing resolved. Okay. Spark plug boot comes out of the way. All right. I'm sure this is original, and this machine's from 2007. It's a Denso plug, and I have gotten a hold of the NGK equivalent. Okay, new plug installed. Boot goes back on. And we're going to start this baby up, and if you didn't experience if it's not fixed, you'll experience what we experienced last time. But there's only one way to find out. Turn it on and get it warmed up. Well, would you believe that I installed that new spark plug? This thing fired up. I drove it for 20 minutes, ran it for 20 minutes, let it sit here idling for a long period of time, drove up to the end of the street in the neighborhood, and no problems. Was that all it was, is needing a new spark plug? Sometimes you just get lucky. That's why I always start with the simple stuff. Start with the simple stuff. That's the lesson. So I guess that's it. You know, I was going to make a separate video of the ignition situation, but since it was just a spark plug, I'm just adding that on at the end. We got it up and running. We did what we were supposed to do. It's back in business. I'm going to do some other maintenance, change the oil filter, air filter. But yeah, it's good to go. I want to thank you for watching. It's been a great experience for me doing this project. I learned a lot. I hope you did too. And I hope you've got the motivation now to try to work through some of these things yourself if you find yourself with a similar machine that doesn't want to start or run after sitting. Remember, like I always say, it's only you that can put the do into do-it-yourself. Thanks for watching, and I will see you on our next video. Bye.